Live, thank you. Good morning again. Welcome to members of council and our legal advisors and the guests that have chosen to join us on this very snowy Friday morning. We'll begin by acknowledging that we are gathered today in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral, present, and future territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Today, we gather with the intent followed by the peace and friendship treaties, and we do so with respect, cooperation, and coexistence. Council, you have an agenda before you that was emailed out. Entertain an agenda to
Mayor, I move that we approve the agenda as submitted.
thank you, seconded by Councillor Carver. You heard the motion on the question. All in favor? The motion is carried. We have one item on today's agenda, and that is an issue of council approving a plan to approve expropriation issue for the town of Mahone Bay. And before we get into that actual item, I would like to point out that in 2013, our council and the Resource Energy Authority area began working to make our power sources more green. We do have a wind turbine project in Ellershouse that provides renewable energy resources to Mahone Bay and the town of Berwick and the town of Antigonish. Those three towns own the wind farm, and those three towns own area as well. We then ship our power via the NSPI, Nova Scotia Power grid across the province, and we pay a fee to ship our power through that grid. The Ellershouse Wind Farm project, even though we only own 10% of it and 10% of the output, does amount to 40% of the electricity that we use here in Mahone Bay. So our capacity to control the cost of that electricity over what's available in the marketplace is somewhat enhanced by the wind power project that we've gotten ourselves into. The area partners, Berwick, Antigonish, and Mahone Bay, are the only three municipalities that have electric utilities in Nova Scotia that meet the 40% required renewable energy guideline that the province has invoked on us. And we were able to achieve that 2 years before we had to, which is it gives us a nod on our area participation. Because of area and the reputation that they have developed for working on these power projects, they were able to secure $16 million in federal and provincial funding for community solar garden projects. And a portion of that $16 million was accorded to Mahone Bay, which is where the project that we have been developing, the funding for it primarily has come. It'll bring Mahone Bay's renewable resource power to something in the order of 60% when the solar garden comes online, and gives us a running start on hopefully achieving a net zero situation within a few years. The solar garden, like the wind farm, as I said, is used to protect our electrical consumers from the swings of power costs in the open market, which have dramatically increased since the world situation has unfolded over the last 12 to 18 months. And it's even then our consumers are faced with the threat of increasing electrical bills, but that increase would be even greater if we didn't have the wind farm and the planned solar garden facility. Before this morning's meeting, council circulated a draft resolution of expropriation for an easement across 2 parcels of land for the purpose of developing a distribution line to transport the electricity we make in the solar garden to the town's distribution station. The path of the easement has been recommended by project consultants and engineers. The width of the easement reflects several factors, including as the need to allow for some flexibility in pole placement is realized as we get the project underway, as well as environmental considerations that we face because of the large wetland areas that are included in that particular part of the town. The total easement for the distribution line does cross 4 parcels of land between Fobo Road and the solar garden site. The town has been in communications with those property owners since 2021, culminating in letters being sent to the affected landowners in October of 2022. Those letters contained independent third-party appraisals obtained by the town, and the letters also invited those landowners to make a proposal regarding terms on which an easement could be considered. We received proposals from 2 of those property owners, and we've since negotiated terms for a grant of easement across those 2 properties, which is satisfactory to the town and to the project consultants. Having not been able to enter into negotiations for an easement across the other 2 properties, a draft resolution of expropriation has been circulated to council and the affected landowners in advance of today's meeting. We have been advised by legal counsel that it's reasonable, and in fact, it's desirable to have the opportunity to afford the 2 landowners an opportunity, if they choose to make a statement to council. At this time, in advance of the resolution which may be presented, I would like to invite the landowners to speak if they so choose, prior to the motion being put on the floor. And I would remind them that this is your opportunity to make a statement. It is not intended as an opportunity for dialogue between the property owners and council. So if you would, please, if someone is interested to make a statement.
Fine. Good morning. This is normally where someone would say, thank you for giving me the chance to speak. But by contrast, we are here full of disappointment and anger with town council's actions and behavior, and sincerely wish that coming here to speak was not necessary. My family is here with me. My mother, who has been heavily involved in the town for 35+ years. My wife, who trusted me that a move to Mahone Bay, with all of its financial and social risks, would be a great experience. And my children are also here as a learning opportunity. As you know, we live at 804 Main Street. And I'm glad that you mentioned 2013 when you started working on this, because we also started working on a move to Mahone Bay in 2013. We came here from London, England. It was a temporary measure while I was setting up a business. We had 1 child at that point and another one on the way. By early 2014, my business had a client, and I began commuting to their head office in London on a monthly basis. I was tasked with building a trading business for them and began working on setting up a subsidiary and a trading desk in Malta. This required quarterly trips to the island for meetings, and the travel began to become too much. We all flew to London and Malta to explore where we were going to live. We were staying with my parents during this at 794 Main Street and kept looking next door at 804. It was for sale. It had a dock on the ocean, a large house to raise our family, and an area to hunt at the very back of the property. And the rarest part was that all of this was on a sidewalk into town. This combination is almost unheard of in Nova Scotia, let alone near any major financial center. We loved this combination and petitioned my client to continue working from Nova Scotia rather than relocating back to London or to Malta. They agreed. We purchased the house in early 2015 and became proud residents of Mahone Bay. I'm not telling you this for sentimental reasons, but to illustrate the intentional and calculated way in which we chose to purchase 804 Main Street. The characteristics of the property are not just why we live in Mahone Bay, but why we live in Canada. The property has influenced how I've built my business. It has influenced how we both work for our various companies. It has very much been a part of us, who we are, and how we make a living. The interesting thing about expropriation is that the law trusts bodies with the power to expropriate. You are in a great position in that we cannot challenge whether expropriating our land is the right decision. We can't challenge whether you choosing to expropriate our land and clear cut it is because it is truly the best option for the solar garden, or if it was driven by council's longstanding dreams, developing the rest of our land. Only time will tell. In the meantime, the only action we have is to take the expropriating authority, in this case, the Town Council of Mahone Bay, to the UARB and argue that we are not being fairly compensated. One positive part of the expropriation rules is that if the UARB determines that the compensation offered by the town was not sufficient, the town will have to pay our legal bills. We are highly confident that your offer of $1,660 as compensation will not be deemed sufficient under the law. That is good news for us, as our legal bills to date will be covered by the town. The CIO first mentioned the concept of expropriating our land back in 2021. So we've had a lot of time to do legal research and determine the factors that can go into a compensation number. There are a number of moving parts and some interesting case law. If you choose to expropriate our land today, we will have 3 heads of claim to bring to the UARB. I'm sure you've been advised on them: injurious affection, disturbance, and special economic advantage. Across these 3 heads of claim, we will be seeking damages in excess of 7 figures. Our math is sound, and legal principles support our claim. I'm glad that we can put this on the record so the voters know that what the legal costs of expropriating our land could be, and the town council has this information to consider before voting on this expropriation resolution. While we know that you councillors feel that you are doing God's work, you have been operating behind closed doors and in your own echo chamber for the last few years. Please, for our benefit as landowners and the benefit of the taxpayers of Mahone Bay, reconsider whether you feel expropriation is necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. Anyone else wish to make a statement?
I do. Excuse me, Your Worship. This opportunity is for landowners, affected landowners to speak.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't see who had responded to say that they wish to make a statement. It's for the landowners only? Ms. Gordon?
The affected landlord.
Yes, yes.
All right.
Is there another affected landowner who wishes to make a statement? Okay. Thank you. Hearing none. We'll go to the, as for the agenda, to the notion of expropriation and the resolution on expropriation. What is your wish, council? Council?
As the expropriation resolution has been circulated to all council and I think elsewhere, and I would like to move that resolution as circulated.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I will second that vote, and I appreciate a recorded vote. Out of courtesy to the homeowners and the community at large.
Yeah, we will do that. Do you have a comment?
Yes, if I may, Mr. Chair and council members, I had some discussion yesterday with the Mossman's legal counsel, John Chandler, and he suggested that there was some wording in the motion that might convey the impression that the actual title to the land was being taken as opposed to simply an easement and accompanying restrictions. And I discussed with him the words in question that were of concern. And I suggested that I would suggest to council that if there was a will to do so on the part of the council, it would be suitable. If you look at the draft resolution that was circulated immediately at the very end of the first page, before the words about the motion's outcome, the word lands is there. And the suggestion was, if there would be a councillor willing to move it and another one to second it, to delete the word lands and substitute the word permanent easements. To make it clear, I think the preamble above that is pretty clear that it's only an easement and restrictions that are being taken, but this makes it absolutely beyond doubt, I think. And so I would recommend that amendment be put.
Thank you. Could you entertain a friendly amendment?
Happily.
Councillor Wilson, you
Yes.
happy with that, Councillor Feeney?
Yes.
Okay, you've heard the motion. We have agreed to the friendly amendment to replace the word lands with the words permanent easement for clarification purposes. So, Councillor, we're going to have a recorded vote. And that recorded vote is taken alphabetically. So on the motion, Councillor Carver.
Your worship, I will be voting in support of this resolution. I know that expropriation is seen by some as unjust, but I'm confident that council has examined this issue from all angles and that this is a fair and reasonable proposal that benefits the good of the community.
Thank you, Councillor Carver. So you're saying yes to the motion? Okay, and I will say yes as well, and for very similar reasons. I think we've exhausted all of the options, and ultimately it's to the good of the entire community of the town of Mahone Bay that a decision is made. And in good conscience, I see this as a decision that is good for the entire town. Councillor Feeney.
Mayor, I will be supporting the motion. It's been a full calendar year since the service corridor path was chosen, and I'm confident that the path selected is superior to the other options that were reviewed by staff and council. I'm also confident that every effort's been made to come to terms with the 4 property owners and that have been affected by the easement needed for the solar garden service corridor. I'm pleased that the matter has been successfully resolved with RPS and the Henneberry family, but I do feel that the motion tabled this morning provides the town with an appropriate option to proceed, given the significant financial impact of further delay. So I will be a yes on the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Owens Croft.
I'll be voting for the motion, your worship, and I'm glad to see the change of the wording in the resolution to easement and for that clarification.
Thank you. Councillor Now.
I also will be voting in favor of it for similar reasons to what everybody else expressed. And I also am glad to see that we are clarifying in there that this is just an easement, not a takeover of the lands.
Thank you. And Councillor Wilson.
I'm a yes, and I have nothing to add to the councillors.
Okay, thank you. The motion is carried. The action will now continue as appropriate. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add? Or any other comments? CAO?
No, I believe I just checked with the legal counsels, but I believe we're concluded this morning.
I think that's all the business that we need to do at council today.
Okay. Councillor Carver.
Your worship, is there an opportunity for the members of the public or the gallery to ask questions at this point in this meeting?
In a council session, we would normally afford the opportunity for the members of the public to ask questions, should they wish to.
It'd be following adjournment though.
Yes, it won't be part of the record of the council meeting, but
And with the business concluded, I think we could adjourn now and then that's.
Move for adjournment there.
thank you. The meeting is concluded, the agenda has been completed. Now that the meeting is closed, is there any comment from anyone in chamber? Yes, please.
Yes, good morning. I'm a new resident in Mahone Bay, so this issue is unfamiliar to me and I'm learning as we